The wind howled across the jagged peaks like a wounded animal that refused to die, and Caleb Morgan stood alone on the edge of the mountain trail, his worn boots gripping the frozen earth as if it were the only thing left in the world that would not betray him. He had been born in those mountains and buried his dreams there too, long before the first grey streak appeared in his dark beard. The villagers down in the valley called him the poor mountain man, not because he begged or complained, but because he owned nothing more than a wooden cabin, 2 stubborn goats, a rusted hunting rifle, and a heart that had learned to live without expecting kindness. He traded firewood and hand-carved tools for flour and salt, kept to himself and spoke only when necessary. Loneliness had become his language. But on the evening that changed everything, the sky was painted in bruised purples and dying gold, and fate was walking toward him in the shape of a hooded woman standing on a broken cart at the edge of the market square. Caleb had gone down to the valley only once that month to trade pelts for winter grain, and he had not expected to find a small crowd gathered around a merchant whose voice was slick with cruelty. The merchant claimed the hooded woman was a runaway servant who owed him travel fees, food, and clothing. He said he would let her go for $1 just to avoid the trouble. $1. The crowd laughed, thinking it a joke, but there was no laughter in the woman's posture. Her head was lowered, her hands bound loosely in front of her, and though her cloak was simple and dusty, something about the way she stood, straight, unbroken, felt out of place. Caleb felt something stir inside him that he had not felt in years. Anger sharpened by compassion. He had $1 left from his trade, a single coin he had planned to save for lamp oil. But he stepped forward anyway. "I'll pay it," he said quietly, his voice steady like distant thunder. The merchant grinned and snatched the coin, cutting the rope with theatrical flair as the crowd dispersed, already bored. Caleb didn't ask her name. He simply gestured toward the mountain path. She followed without a word. The climb was steep, the air thinning as night swallowed the last light. And still she said nothing. Caleb wondered if she was frightened or broken or plotting to run. But when they reached his cabin, a small structure tucked between pine trees and overlooking a silver river, he opened the door and stepped aside. "You can stay here," he said. "I've only got 1 bed. I'll take the floor." The hooded woman finally lifted her head, and though her face was shadowed, her eyes caught the firelight like hidden stars. Then she spoke. Her voice was not weak or trembling. It was calm, clear, and warm like summer rain. "You didn't buy me," she said. "You freed me." In that moment something shifted in Caleb's chest. He had expected fear or gratitude, but what he heard was dignity, strength. And when she pushed back her hood, revealing dark hair braided simply down her back and a face marked not by hardship but by resilience, Caleb felt as if the mountain itself had whispered to him. She told him her name was Ilara. She had once worked in a distant town as a healer's apprentice, learning herbs and remedies, but after her mentor died, debts had been falsely claimed against her. The merchant had seized the chance to trap her in obligation. She had endured weeks of humiliation, waiting for a chance to escape. And when Caleb stepped forward with that single $1, she knew it wasn't luck, it was destiny wearing rough boots and a tired expression. Caleb listened quietly as she spoke, and for the first time in years, the silence between his cabin walls felt alive instead of empty. He made stew from potatoes and dried venison, apologizing for its simplicity. But Ilara smiled gently and said it was the first meal in months that tasted like kindness. Days turned into weeks. Ilara stayed, helping tend the goats, gathering herbs from the mountain slopes, and teaching Caleb how to brew teas that eased his chronic cough. The villagers whispered when they heard she was living with him, but Caleb didn't care. Something in her laughter, soft but genuine, began melting the ice he had carried inside for years. One evening, as snow fell gently outside, Ilara placed her hand over his rough one and said, "You see yourself as poor, Caleb, but you are the richest man I've ever met. You gave your last $1 to someone the world had discarded, and when she said those words, he knew she was the one. Not because she was beautiful or mysterious, but because she saw him in a way no one ever had. The mountains had always been his prison, but now they felt like a kingdom worth sharing. If this story is touching your heart, if you believe kindness can change destinies, make sure to subscribe to this channel and join us for more powerful journeys of love, courage, and unexpected miracles.